Dude, how's it going?
We are Squawking Dead, a podcast pulverizing episodes of the Walking Dead universe. Sometimes we give you news, sometimes we make you laugh, but most times we go deep. I'm here with Teo Rapp-Olsson.
How we doing, man?
Good morning. And we're here to check out the Museum of the Moving Image.
Man, what a truck.
I know, right?
10 out of 10. No, but actually we're here for this museum.
We're here for the Living with the Walking Dead exhibit. That's it? All right. I don't want to spoil too much at all.
That is insane.
Yeah. I mean, between the intro, Kurt Manley's poster. So check this out. This is something for you to appreciate, Bridget, who's holding the camera right now. What do you think? What do you think of this so far?
It's pretty cool. I love this. As you know.
Yeah, this is the origins
of
all things zombie. In terms of like horror, zombie horror, have you actually? So you haven't really been like more of a horror fan.
So I am now. I'm quite into horror. Walking Dead was the first time I'd ever seen anything with zombies. Then actually I got super into it. So while I was watching, because I picked up probably I think like season 2, and was watching at that period of time. But like ran out, got the book World War Z, got obsessed with that. Was really stoked for the movie. Less stoked when the movie came out.
Right.
You know, I was stoked for it. But no, I got like super into the concept through Walking Dead, but I was still a little itchy around horror movies for a while.
Gotcha.
And then a friend took me to, oh God, what was the movie? The Ari Aster movie. It's going to come back in at some point, like 40 minutes into this while we're walking down, I was going to say. But that was kind of like the first time where I was like, okay, I can see like the art to this and like
right.
what is a genre that isn't just like wait for a pop out.
Yeah, and well, we were even thinking like we just recently talked about this and how like like zombie horror or grindhouse or any of those genres, they tend to lean towards the ridiculous or like the almost fourth wall breaking kind of stuff. And I mean, for a reason, because like you either have this very dissatisfying ending, clearly, or you kind of have to keep going ridiculous so that audience could be satisfied. So when you see something like The Walking Dead, you're like, okay, I can take this seriously and be invested and just game theory everybody up, so they keep watching.
Yeah.
So you said you'd watch the second season, and
no, I mean, I started watching around the second season. I was in college when it came out, and I literally was hanging out with a friend who was like, hey, you should check out this pilot. Showed me the first episode, and I was hooked. And kind of what you're going off of, what I really loved was that it felt like, it was actually trying to ground this as close to reality as possible. I mean, like moral questions, and
right.
It's not black and white, it's very gray of like, what would you do in these situations?
Yeah.
There isn't necessarily right and wrong as much. I mean, you start to see like, maybe like go try to save that family, but you're most likely going to get killed doing it.
Exposed, yeah.
Yeah, and so I thought that was what kind of set it apart from a lot of other things kind of in that horror genre at the time was, you take most zombie movies and it's like survive this one instance at the mall and get out of there.
Right.
This was like what happens 3 months after the mall. What happens 4 months after.
Right, and like the further along you go, you realize, I realized I'll never be like that. It's not a, that's like an extraordinary circumstance. And like, as you find, as you know, as Sebastian, it's like, how did you last that long, right? So,
Mommy.
It does make you think, yeah. Even like some of the characters on the show, you realize that they, how did they make it? Like Eugene, for example. But then you realize, well, that's life too. Life is luck too.
No, I think it's life is luck, but also like he has. You take Eugene has an incredible attribute, which is his intelligence.
Yeah.
His ability to think outside the box, come up with inventions. So he becomes extremely necessary to a lot of groups who are then willing to use resources to keep him alive.
Yeah. Once they realize that he has value too. So.
Exactly.
So, but even then, the thing that saved him was more guile and the lie.
Yeah.
And it just amazes me how sometimes people will survive on the most, what you wouldn't think is the reason. Right?
Yeah. It's not going to be their brute strength.
Exactly. Or their hyper intelligence, even to that extent. So sometimes it's just luck, or sometimes it's just chance, or some other attribute that goes unnoticed, or something.
Oh, that's what I think they do a great job of, like, especially in a lot of the comics too. I think they do an amazing job of kind of showing the reality that even you have some of the best, people who are equipped for this, and they just die randomly. You take like Abraham in the comics.
Yeah.
It's just like an arrow to die.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like completely randomly, and then you have people who shouldn't be surviving for an extremely long period of time.
Surviving for a really long time. Yeah. Some key comments here. Yeah, one thing that you're going to notice as you walk through the exhibit, it's just very thoughtfully curated. It's as if they're retelling the story from, I mean, I guess the museum's vantage point.
Kind of like how the whole like saga came to be. Yeah, that's awesome.
The origins.
The true origins.
Frank Darabont, comics, panels, scripts.
Yeah, it was wild, like reading through the comics and then kind of going back and doing a rewatch of the show and like just, I mean, seeing, you know, where from the beginning they wanted to already take liberties and where they really wanted to follow things to a T and just like artfully what they like tried to capture.
And what worked and what didn't too. I mean, there's some moments in season 8 where I'm thinking to myself, oh, should they have followed so rigidly, right?
No, I know. I think that's always kind of a difficult question. I think we're like in the middle of kind of a period of time where we're seeing more and more things that are, you know, they're created off of other source material.
Yeah.
And so Walking Dead is definitely kind of one of the trendsetters in terms of like, what do you do when you have such a long piece of source material and how much of it do you follow, how much of it do you try to veer away from? And yeah, I mean, I think like there's parts, like, I mean, even in season, Carol wouldn't even be
alive.
She'd be eaten.
Right, the people that end up dying and the people end up staying alive.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're completely reversed. So Carl's shirt from the show. Oh, they included the comic. That's pretty cool. That was not there before.
So when I got on the show, my girlfriend, who is very squeamish about scary things, I was already down in Georgia, and she messages me and she's like, all right, I'm watching the first episode, and I didn't see this. I was like cooking or something, and then when I pick up the phone, I just read, they just shot a little girl. And I was just like, oh yeah, you're gonna hate this show. That's setting a precedent.
Way worse.
That's light. That's
So early on.
Exactly. She, needless to say, did not watch much more after that. I was telling her that's probably best, especially since I was not home at this time, and I was like,
Couldn't be there.
going to be just having nightmares otherwise.
And she doesn't like horror or any of that.
Oh, absolutely.
My wife's the same way. She's just
Really?
oh, let's binge The Office back to back.
Yeah,
you know?
like, no, let's watch something really messed up. How about that? How about something where in the first opening sequence we established that even kids are
susceptible
on the chopping board
Yeah.
here?
They kind of shied away from that thereafter a little bit, but yeah.
I think that's also like Daryl coming in and like
Yeah.
is kind of like
Kinda shaking things up.
Yeah, man, that is wild.
Isn't that wild?
Why is it somebody like kept on to this?
Yeah.
Of course, the doors, the classic doors,
The gown.
his gown. Leaving a lot to the imagination. There she is.
And we're kind of like walking through this initial journey.
Yeah. Man, I mean, the first episode is one of my favorite pilots to a show.
Yeah, it's pretty iconic.
I think it does an amazing job of just kind of setting up what this whole universe is going to be like. Obviously, Andrew Lincoln is an unbelievable actor.
And it's so funny, he comes from comedy roots kind of like you, though, in a sense. I mean, I would classify you as more of a comedic actor, at least initially, because I think you had done improv, right?
Yeah. So that was kind of my way into acting.
Right. Studying at UCB, Stella Adler's school, I think it was, right?
You've done your
studio,
research.
yeah. NYU?
Yes.
Yeah. So I was thinking to myself, for like actors, the pull is usually to head to LA and make it out there. Where did you want to be in terms of an actor? Was it more the stage? Was it more comedic roles in television, film?
So I mean, I definitely when I was younger, it was all comedy. Went to NYU and started kind of doing a lot more dramatic pieces. Really loving both. It wasn't until my fourth year we had this on-camera acting program, and I'm absurdly dyslexic, and it was just kind of the first time that I kind of understood I'm just a very visual thinker, and obviously on-camera work is all visuals, and the more that you as the actor can understand what is something going to look like in the post-production, how is this going to look from the camera standing over there, the better. And so it really just felt like that all kind of clicked together. In terms of LA, I've gone out there for work. I love it. It's a cool city. I don't know. I'm also just that pretentious New Yorker who loves it.
Right. This is the center of the universe. Guys.
Exactly. Somebody gets it. Finally,
I mean, thank God.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, New York is home. I mean, that's.
Yeah.
I tried to get away from here myself.
Yeah.
For a little while, I went to Chicago for a little while. I was a singer-songwriter, so I was kind of Chicago, home of the blues. No.
I'm feeling it though.
But I mean, I learned to love the people and kind of being somewhere that really wasn't New York. I mean, think of the Midwest and I mean, literally. This sounds like the stupidest statement in the world, but think of the Midwest and dropping a huge city in it. Mm-hmm. They're still kind of nice.
Yeah.
You know, people can get along.
Well, I think one of the biggest misunderstandings of New Yorkers is everybody thinks they're like rude. I would say New Yorkers aren't rude; they're impatient.
Yeah,
it's like
we got somewhere to be.
But if you need something, if you don't know where you're going, I'll point it out to you. But we're gonna have to keep walking while we're doing it.
Yeah,
you can't stop where you're in the middle of the street.
Yeah, that's an unkindness. To keep a New Yorker waiting is rude.
It's rude. Sacrilegious.
Yeah.
I really think at like the airports, like international flights, they should have like little promo videos that explain walking on the sidewalk, similar to like a highway.
Yeah.
I mean, like, if you're gonna stop, get off to the side, pull over, stop and look at your map there. But I mean, there's nothing I have less patience for than somebody stopping in the center.
I mean, you could tell New Yorkers to do that too. Like some of them just don't get it.
There are some. It's dangerous.
That's the same with driving. I have a little bit more respect for New York drivers though.
Yeah.
Because it's like they know they need to get somewhere, so they're gonna figure it out.
And doing it through just sheer nightmarish traffic.
Yeah, especially
driving in like Greece at one point.
Oh,
okay. Vaguely like
that was like recently.
Rules
right?
are a suggestion over there. Yeah. They're kind of like maybe tell somebody you're gonna stop. But there was something to it that I was like, oh, this is easy. This is fine.
Right, once you get the flow of
I can do this.
Yeah.
I just don't want to get onto like, Queensboro Bridge. Ooh. Oh, and welcome back to the podcast where we talk about nothing but New York City traffic.
Exactly. Yeah, this will be cut out. No, it won't. Anyway, let's keep going.
Thrilling content.
I know. This is for the New Yorkers out there.
Some real inside baseball. Yes, Morgan. And it is also so weird because, when you're on set, a lot of this kind of stuff, you're not thinking twice that, this is going to someday be in a museum.
No.
It's props.
Oh, wait till you get further along.
I'm sure. No.
Don't even turn your back yet. Don't turn your back yet. Don't turn your back yet. Okay.
You can see it.
So first of all, give me the elevator pitch on Rerun. Okay? And your role in it, and what it was like to work with Christopher Lloyd, who plays, your older self / you play his younger self.
Dude, that was a weird one. So that was actually while we were still at NYU.
Okay.
It started as a student project where basically, almost all the people in that, they're in the program. We're all trying to learn how to act. I think luckily we all weren't terrible, which is a huge Hail Mary when you're still in college. And then at some point they kind of figured we could actually spin this into something bigger.
Okay.
And so it was actually they had filmed most of it and then brought in Christopher Lloyd, who looked at the footage, was really into the project, and came on board for it. But obviously, back at NYU when they were talking about this, they're like, oh yeah, we would try to get somebody to, play an older version of you. And I was like, yeah, good luck with that. Who are you gonna get?
Right.
And then at some point they get an email out to me oh yeah, we got Christopher Lloyd. And I was like, sorry, excuse me?
Come again?
Not a different guy with the same name, right?
Actually, the creator of what was it, Modern Family? No, the other Christopher Lloyd.
Yes, that one. But yeah, obviously with Doc is gonna play you in something, you're gonna be pretty stoked.
Yeah. So did you have any conversations involved?
No, we didn't get to have any conversations about that or anything. I've met him since and kind of talked about it.
Oh, okay.
Which was always just a funny thing. It's I've seen your face.
Yeah, I've seen you around.
Yeah. And you're all right, cool. Which rarely does somebody of that stature say yes, I've seen your face already. And also again, for something random that at the time you're doing as a project to get an A in class, and then
to have that swept up into a film, which had won a number of awards.
Yeah. No, it did really well actually.
Yeah.
Which was just again one of those things where it is not at all what you're thinking was going to happen, but I figure that's kind of a good lesson for most of the industry is you have no idea what's going to happen until it does.
Well, kind of like what we were talking about before. Sometimes it's just luck.
Oh, God, yeah. I would say that's a huge part of acting. And obviously, I think it's you bring your skill, which I think is a multiplier to that luck. But at the end of the day, it's did you look like what they imagined the character to look like? They've already cast, the mom. Do you look like that? Those kind of questions that you have no control over.
Right. It's not your show.
No, exactly. Or they already cast a brother. Are you shorter than the brother? You're supposed to be the older brother. It's not going to work. Yada yada yada.
Well, give everybody just a synopsis on what the movie is about.
Yeah, of course.
Just from your perspective.
So it follows very similar. It was almost like a modernization of It's a Wonderful Life.
Gotcha.
And so it kind of takes this older man who figures out through a portal that he can go back in time and kind of relive points that he was questioning in his own life, whether or not this was actually if he made the right decisions, and kind of through going back and getting another shot, realizing actually all the parts of one's life that you take for granted, that you don't really remember as being so tantamount to who you are as a person today, and then kind of having the question of, do I want to actually go back and change these things, or actually even considering all the bad things that has happened in my life, was it worth it because it made me who I am.
Right, right. It's like Inner Light on Star Trek, The Next Generation.
What we got here.
Yeah, and I'm sure you've seen pictures and stuff like that too of this exhibit. But
Yeah. No, but I mean, obviously seeing like the real deal.
And the lights with the stained glass,
Wow.
the letters, the maps, the photos from the set.
That's crazy.
Come look, Bridget. Come look.
I like getting the reactions when you're looking at stuff.
Radio Wing Morgan.
Plus, you got all these people already.
Yeah, and that's Negan's jumpsuit here.
Yeah, I mean, again, though, like, a walkie-talkie, like, you're holding that as the actor, and you're not thinking this is going to be in a museum at some point. This is just wild to obviously be part of a show.
Well, any of this stuff too. Like, I mean, look at Morgan's outfit decked out to the nines with his stick. Having all of these things that were in the wardrobe department is.
Well, and then these weapons themselves become iconic.
Yeah.
Is really something else. You know, I feel like rarely does your main inanimate object become like a personality of yourself.
Oh yeah.
It's definitely one of those shows.
Just this tight association with a character.
Not really Negan's bat. That's not as big of a deal, but like everything else is something.
Well, I mean, like Colt,
Yeah.
Colt Python. I mean, which there's another copy of that there, but
really?
we'll get there.
I cannot imagine how painful that would be to shoot.
Yeah, let's walk around this way because there's your favorite friends.
Sherbert.
You know, Captain Sherbert,
Oh.
Major General Sherbert, his little kid. This is one of my favorite things coming in here until I walked a little bit that way, but I'll let you admire that for a sec.
This is wild.
Yeah.
Seeing the art drawings for this. It's obviously like walking on this a lot. I didn't figure, because by the time I show up, this is already built. They've, this is, months if not years before
all the planning
any of us show up
elements.
to actually work on the show. But to see what, the artist rendering the concepts behind all this before you see the final product, because as the actor, you kind of always just see the final product. And I talked to a few people in the arts department, and it was always so wild because obviously this is a show where they get a huge amount of creative license, and just like the attention to detail is insane. I mean, you take like this, there's an obelisk in the middle of the town square, and it's a monument. Yeah,
right.
It's actually dedicated
To World War I. The Great War is what it says on it.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
This is what we do.
Oh, no, but that's awesome because I remember like walking around my first day, and at some point like being like, I don't know, can I just
read
walk
this?
around?
Yeah.
Am I allowed to I was like waiting for a PA to be like, get on the ground, you can't move. But they
Like
let
for
me,
real, yeah.
But they let me go around. But yeah, I was just like reading all the signs, and I was like, oh my god, somebody like took the time to write this, which like, it's art. You're not going to necessarily be able to see it in a shot, but somebody has just prepared every single detail just in case.
It must be a lot like I got married, but like what a wedding is like. Mm-hmm. You're involved in it, and while you're in it as the couple, as the bride and groom, or the bride and bride, or the groom and groom, it kind of just goes by really fast. And it's really us as the guests who get to view the wedding, who can really appreciate it.
Yeah.
So it must be a lot like that for you. You're in it. You don't really get to see yourself as yourself until it's out. And you don't really get to see as much of the details until you're able to see it in front of a screen, right?
Yeah, well, not to mention, I mean, you get a script and you're looking at that, and you have an idea of what this is going to look like, but it's not until you show up to set and you're like, oh, all right, got it. This is where we're shooting. This is what it's going to look like. In my head, I've just had an idea of, we're on a hill. There's going to be a house down there, and there's a bunch of zombies in there. Then you actually get to the space in Georgia, and you're like, okay, now I know exactly what I'm looking at, what this is going to be, which obviously adds a whole new element to it.
Right.
And I think that's also the beauty on camera is the spontaneity that comes from all that, because you get the ability to, you take this. Like,
To go, right.
well, on a stage, you have 3 walls. The 4th, obviously, is going to be the audience. Here, all 4 walls are decked to the nines. And, if you're in an office, you're in an office. If, you're scrounging through a cabinet, the cabinet has things in it.
Yeah.
There's just a level to the detail that, as the actor, is just an insane luxury. You get to, the bar for what you're doing, like acting, is just gets lower and lower because you're dealing with.
Because you're so immersed in the environment.
Yeah, definitely.
But isn't it also kind of like a forest for the trees sort of thing? There's so much detail that you're like, I gotta focus on my work. But it's environment building. But
I think it's one of those things where it's also like every actor is different, how they approach these kind of things, what they get into. But like a lot of times, like when we get to a set, especially if I haven't worked on it before, I kind of walk around, be like, okay, what interests me here? What would I play with? What would as the character, what would I do? and just kind of go from there. So a lot of times there would be places where you're actually really excited because you have this whole space, and you're like, okay, I mean, I have free reign here. We're gonna walk around and start to block it and figure out where the cameras need to be.
Right.
But a lot of that is motivated by movement. And so, sometimes you're actually like working in tandem with the camera crew, and they want you to try to get over here, do something. So you're trying to figure out a justification for what would bring you there.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, like first time when I was working with Michael, I had barely even met him, but I was like, that armor would be so much fun to like smack.
Right.
So I'm obviously going to have to smack it.
Oh.
Which it's also because if you're getting the chance to hang out with somebody like Michael James Shaw, in my off time, I'm not going to hit Michael James Shaw for very obvious reasons. So if somebody wants to pay me to do it and then tell me I did a good job afterwards, it's a lot of fun.
Visit TT's OnlyFans and he'll hit Michael James Shaw. Anyway.
Costs a little extra. Yes.
A lot extra, actually. And Michael'll be down for it. He gets a cut.
Yeah, no. He gets most of it, to be fair.
Yeah. Finder's fee.
So I feel like
it's like a 3D rendering of
well, but you can see they've even just like put things in because they're figuring out what they're going to make Alexandria look like. They know like they have this plot of land and these houses, but they just have an open field here, so they're figuring out like, oh, let's put, we're gonna put the windmill here, let's put a farm here. It's funny, I mean, like even like looking at this, it doesn't exactly look like this in the final product. This is just like an idea of a sketch for it before they'd even ever built anything.
Right. I mean, even down to this. I mean, it's obviously like rough. But it gives you an idea of how they're blocking.
Again, you're handing this off to somebody to be like, this is what I would like it to look like, and then somebody has to go out and build it. I feel like I can talk about this now, but so obviously during COVID, trying to keep everybody safe, one of the things, especially for like people staying there longer, was trying to give you somewhere to stay where you're not as surrounded by other people. So what they figured out was that they would use some of the houses in Alexandria to put up like actors, producers. So I had like a lot of time where I was living inside the walls, which was one of the weirder but most fun like places as an actor to like literally open your door and you're in the apocalypse, just walking around, and then go home at night into like a house in Alexandria, which was super fun. It was also the creepiest.
Is it? Okay.
I mean, you're again outside your doors was like decayed ruins of the buildings and all this stuff, and I feel like it was so scary that I was like, like, if the witch gets me in here, this is where she gets me. I'm not, there's no getting away.
I lived a wonderful life. I mean,
exactly, right? I mean, I'm on the set. This is great, but probably gonna die here. I didn't. At least I don't believe I did. This could be heaven.
I mean, are we alive?
This is a deep question.
Are we respawning every day?
These are the kind of questions we're gonna ask on this show.
We're talking about Tales of the Walking Dead at this point. Actually, I kind of wanted to talk about that too, because I mean, you had done some work on Law and Order SVU.
Yes.
I mean, I have to ask, what is the set experience or the set atmosphere like in terms of like the differences between that kind of show, like a Dick Wolf production or production, or like The Walking Dead? I mean, there's got. I don't know if it's a matter of caliber, but it's got to be a different atmosphere.
I mean, in many ways, they're of a very similar caliber. I mean, that's a show that's like. I mean, SVU's been on for like well over 20 years.
Yeah.
Obviously, it comes from like a lineage of other Law and Orders, but it also follows this other style of format where it's like those episodes are churned out in a week.
That's kind of what I mean. Yeah.
Move super fast. Whereas The Walking Dead, I mean, you could easily take 2 weeks to shoot an episode, and there is like they take their time. And I think there's merit to both systems. Obviously, again, something like Law and Order, they're making 20-something episodes a season. Every one of these is a fresh one-off idea. You even look at the sets. I mean, a lot of it is just housed in Chelsea Piers.
Right.
Again, just going into New York geography for all the non-New Yorkers here.
Yeah.
But needless to say, Chelsea Piers is not where you'd expect a set to be. It's mostly like a kid's gymnasium. But they can quickly like fly in, like, all right, now we got to be in the courtroom. All right, now we got to be in the precinct. Now we got to be in a hospital, and that's all like within a very small space. Whereas Walking Dead, I mean, like, you have this massive lot with acres and acres of land, and if you're shooting in the woods, you're shooting in the woods.
This is where we are.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to move an entire unit out into the middle of nowhere, sweating your butt off, and doing the real deal. I think as an actor, it's just so much fun to be as immersed as you are when doing like The Walking Dead. I mean, in the episode when I'm going out to do my advanced military training.
One of our favorites, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just teaching people how you do it for real if you're in the apocalypse.
For real?
Yes. You hire a lot of stronger people to bring you the weakest zombies that you get to kill in front of them, in case you wouldn't be able to kill them. But yeah, we're literally in the woods, drenched in sweat, turning to hair and makeup between takes and being like, all right, and they're like, no, this is good. This is what we're looking for.
Are we filthy enough?
Yeah, exactly. But no, it's wild. And like with that one, a lot of that is actually shot, literally feet from where Glenn does in the show.
I see.
Right. So like, there's these moments where like I'm, between takes.
So that does dawn on you, huh?
Well, I was just talking with like the AD, and he was just like JJ, and he was just like, yeah, like right over there. That's where he died. Or over here, like this is where Carl got shot with the deer, and just these things. You're like, oh my god, yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about now. But obviously, you can reuse these kind of locations, change where you are, and with that kind of show, I mean, they bought acres and acres of land a long time ago, so they can just run throughout that whole area, and it's a playground for them.
Right. Change of position. Now you're all of a sudden in a different place. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. And the fact that you like kind of feel that weird hollowed ground feeling that this is where this happened, or this is where that happened twice. But then like there's fan questions, so
cool.
it's kind of like
nice.
Oh yeah, I was supposed to say hi to you from Fan Art Lindy. She said hi. She wanted me to give you a hug, but I'm very sweaty.
No, I want the hug.
So, okay.
let's get a Fan Art Lindy proxy hug.
That's from Linda.
Oh, Linda, thank you. We love it.
You should see our questions. Pretty good. Yeah, because I was going to ask something along those lines, actually.
To hug me?
That was great.
Maybe we had that.
Yeah, I feel closer to you now. So this is kind of already implied. This is from Renee 6/5/2003, like where you found the show, comics before being cast. So a little bit with the comics or the show.
So the show. I had not read the comics before getting onto the show, and it was one of these things where, I mean, again, as an actor, I've never been a part of something that has material
lore,
that predates it, like lore. And I'm a huge fan of, lore-based things. I'm a huge Star Wars nerd and things like that. So a big thought for me was when coming on to something like this, if it were my lore, if it were my baby, the thing that I've been following forever, I would want to know that the actors who came onto it, really delved as deep into it and tried to bring as much to it. So I was so stoked to, I bought the compendiums and just like devoured them, read through them. And again, also a big old fan as a dyslexic that it's a comic book and not, book books. So a lot of pictures, great. We love pictures. But it was, really cool to then get an idea of like, okay, what is the style of the comics? What is the style that the show tried to, mimic or get the feel of? And also what parts of it are they very actively going in a different direction and saying that is the comics, but this is the show? That was by and far one of the most fun parts about doing a job like this is getting to explore a lot of the material.
Right, knowing the difference too. Right. So actually, on that note, so were you approached, or did you like say to yourself, or did somebody say to you, hey, I like this show, can I be on it? Like how did and this is another question from Renee.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's auditions. I have representation basically. Every now and then you'll get an email which will just say, we have an audition for you, get us a self-tape by this day. And you get enough of these that statistically, 90-something% of the time, you're not even hearing anything back. Like, it's not even no, it's just we don't respond. So with this one, I got this tape for Sebastian. The names are changed on it, so I just know it's Walking Dead, but I don't really know much else.
But you were the one who pursued, or was it like your talent and your management?
Representation gets you the audition.
Gotcha.
And I had auditioned like once or twice before for the show, but it's not something where like I'm not like running out to like stalk the casting directors and be like, hey guys, like I think I'm right for the show.
Yeah.
But obviously if I'm getting something
baskets and stuff,
didn't do that. But if you get these auditions, you're like, all right, Walking Dead, obviously would love to be on that. But again, there is a certain level of like I know statistically I can give it my all, and I might knock this out of the park. But as we were talking about, it might just be oh, your hair is brown, and it looks too much like another character, whatever, something that just is not up to your control necessarily.
Yeah, or even just like a bias or some dumb thing, like somebody had a bad morning, and that's not your job.
You remind them too much of their nephew, and they hate their nephew because of that one Christmas.
Although
we all know what you did, nephew.
Although in your case, it probably
that might have actually
an advantage.
That might have helped. Yeah, that probably did help. But I mean, it was one of these ones where I did this at like 10 p.m. at night. Didn't think twice about it. I mean, you send it in because, again, statistically, I'm not going to hear anything back.
Right.
About like a week and a half or 2 weeks go by, and I get a call from my manager and agents, and they're all on the phone, which is a very rare thing. And they even said this to me. They're like, if we're on the phone, this either means that we're dropping you, or you just booked something big. Which do you think it is? And I was like, well, I'm really hoping you didn't drop me. They're like, do you remember what you auditioned for recently? I was like, no. I put it out of my head. I forgot all about it because, again, if I think about it, I'm going to lose my mind. And so then, like, do you remember auditioning for Walking Dead? And there was like a pause, and there's like, no. And then I actually literally sat on the floor, and unfortunately my dog tried to eat my face, which didn't help with the momentousness of the moment, but while fending off my dog's fangs.
But it was a good intro to the show.
It was. No, it did prepare me.
Into the zone.
How you keep something that is mercilessly trying to attack your face back. And I can say that's something I'm very good at with my dog. So
it doesn't really help your role, but
no, but hey,
it's fine. Get in the mind space.
If push comes to shove, you got to be ready.
Yeah.
That's again advanced military training for a reason.
So you really felt that moment. You really was like,
yes. Oh my God. No, I mean, this is by and far the coolest gig I have booked in terms of already being something that I had followed, knowing about this lore, and again knowing oh, this is also a show which we haven't even spoke about yet, but that really goes out of its way to do as much VFX as possible, do the real deal. Obviously they use CGI, but when they can, trying to make things practical. So knowing I'm going to be on a set, and if there's a zombie there, there's a zombie there. If there's people running around doing crazy things, we're going to do as much of it on the day live as possible.
Yeah.
And again, as the actor, I remember being in vans to set, and they're like, "How's your day?" I was like, "We're going to do make pretend. How's my day? It's amazing. This is incredible." I mean, how would it not be?
I mean, yeah, actually, so it's funny. I had listened to another interview, and just to give maybe the audience kind of your upbringing, you had mentioned somewhere along the line. I mean, in the context of dyslexia, but you had said that growing up, you developed this really, really interactive imagination of your own to kind of keep yourself entertained. What was it that was the genesis of that? I know that sounds like a really weird question, but let me just give you mine, and then being dragged around to shopping trips by my mom, my dad being at work for very long hours, so it's you kind of have to make your own fun. What was it like? What was that for you though? What was it?
That's so funny. That's a good question. I've never actually really thought about it, but I would say
really intrigued me. That statement.
No, I mean, I it's funny because years later, I've talked with a lot of friends who, when we were kids, were obviously all playing, running around my house, and every one of them said the same story. It's I was just kind of following you. You were like, all right, now we're hold up here, pretend there's an army coming, and we're defending. And they're like, yeah, sure, let's do it. This is fun. I hadn't kind of realized that none of them were also seeing what you were seeing. Army that was,
there's a guy over there. He's trying to attack you. Run.
We have to deal with this. This threat is impending. But I would say, similarly, it's my dad lives in Sweden, and therefore, we go over there, which is amazing, super fun. Turns out Swedes love to speak Swedish, and especially when I was a kid, not speaking. I know it's a bold statement, but as a kid, not speaking the language yet, bored when adults are just talking. I did a lot of just make pretend in my head. I don't know. I just think it was one of those things that I gravitated towards. I mean, in my free time, it was if I was playing with my action figures or something, it was always a very in-depth story. And so that was always kind of a launching point to acting. But then something like this, where you get to be on a set and you're having days where you're thinking okay, if there's a zombie over there, how do I relate to this zombie at this point, in my life? Am I scared by zombies, or because there's security around, it's not as scary?
Especially for your role too, because it's kind of am I scared of these, or do I feel safe? Right?
I remember sitting there and really doing out the math of how old was I? Where am I in the timeline of all this?
Yeah, we've done that too.
No, but
exactly. Trying to figure how that mapped out. Well, actually, what would you say is your age on the show?
So I was talking with a few people about this, but it was never it's never exactly made out, but it seems early 20s.
That's what I said. Yeah, I was oh yeah, obviously 10 years old maybe when this all started.
Yeah.
Some people were speculating, it's like, and he's kind of like a man baby, like, he's like 40, but he looks 20.
But I was 40, but he looks 20. Damn, all right, I'll take it.
I know, gifted, 43.
Never been accused of looking 40. I will, once in a while.
But looks really good because he's been behind walls.
Yeah.
That's kind of like the thought process, right?
He's been safe the whole time. I mean, a huge thing for me was actually the first day on set going to costume. Vera, who does the costumes,
right?
Because I had ideas of like what I think Sebastian's going to be like, but it was when I saw what their concept visually was for him that a lot of it actually fell into place in a way that I hadn't even really known until the first time I see like, oh, you're going to be in these like bright shorts and like Argyles, all these kind of things, and I was like, oh, Sebastian, got it, all right.
Sebastian.
Yes, he's going to, it's a lot more common stances.
Country club.
Yes. Oh god, yeah. But yeah, that definitely kind of informs a lot of the character for you, which is
right.
Nice.
Also, along with the set environment, along with that comes the outfits, and that kind of really like, I am the part.
Yeah.
Which kind of goes to the imagination part. Mm-hmm. It kind of helps.
Oh, it helps.
You don't have to construct it yourself.
I mean, again, at home, my costumes are like my school backpack that I'm turning into my rogue backpack on the run and all this kind of stuff.
Wow, you went there. I was like, this is my rocket pack. And
that's actually more imaginative.
Flying
yeah, no, I mean that was
in
probably better.
Somewhere. I'm doing it now, man.
All right. Imagining it like an 8th grade level.
So obviously we have more costumes. We got Maggie, Michonne, Dog.
I love it. It's just called Dog.
Daryl? Is that? Yeah, that's Daryl.
Crossbow.
You can't tell it's him without the filth and the hair.
Yeah, I was gonna say no. There's something with the outfit. It just looks too neat,
too clean. You should just have like a. Do you have like those cardboard cutout? Just a cardboard cutout head.
Yeah, just the face. That's really all you need. Then I'd be like, oh, got it. Yeah.
Or like a sound box.
Yeah, just on the ears.
Yeah.
See, again, this is the fun stuff that you also get to see is like you get to work with some of the best people in their industries, and especially like VFX. I mean, these guys are the best of the best.
Can be.
But like you get to set and see this kind of creepy stuff, and you're like, somebody was at home thinking, how do I make severed ears? What would that look like? And that's a very weird, creepy person, and I might not want to know them in my personal life, but on set is a great person to get to know.
Right,
really.
Because like you think to yourself, this guy probably had to look at cadavers.
Dude,
that's exactly what you're thinking,
yes,
right?
No, I once I started seeing a lot of the prosthetics, I never looked at Greg Nicotero the same way, because I was like, oh man, you've seen some creepy stuff, like out of your own volition. You went, sought it out.
Oh yeah. There was that story about how he took, and I forget which season this was, the actual like pig guts, for the walkers to kind of smear on themselves and shit, whatever. Like that one time, I think, and then I don't think ever again.
Yeah,
by the way,
it's like no, we're not doing that.
I think so. Yeah, the insides of the horse.
Wow, yeah. No, which makes sense because it looks quite real. Alpha, which is also one of the best bad guys.
Yeah, and her Tales of the Walking Dead episode really does justice.
Bring a lot of stuff to it.
Yeah. Have you been watching that?
I haven't. No, I know. I know. No, but I want to get to it.
All right, we're cutting this out. No. he's a
terrible show.
He's a huge fan.
I don't watch it.
I refuse to watch it.
Man. Like hours.
Right.
Like the detail, like the teeth.
Oh yeah. I didn't notice that.
No, but that's what I mean. It's like those kind of things that you're like, I mean, this is, we had to get a mold. We had to like look through my eye shop of different eyeballs and be like, yeah, those are the right eyeballs for this.
Right, under such light.
Yeah. Like bring in like each hair follicle. I mean, these kind of details that you're just like, you're crazy.
For the eyebrows.
You're a crazy person.
And the hair. And the head. Yeah.
This is me just judging VFX people. They're all weirdos. There, I said it. You heard it here first.
Let's just go. Come on. When I came here, they didn't even have all the cards to identify this stuff.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. I guess they still don't.
That's weird. They have like some of 15 through 20.
Well, the other side is the 1, 2, 3.
Right, sorry.
I mean, some of these are just not labeled too. I mean,
there's a lot of. Turns out there's been a lot of weapons on the show. Who knew? Seemed like a fairly peaceful show until I'm here, and now it's somewhat violent.
Like a fresh coat of paint on what this show's about. Mm-hmm. I just love the tenderizer on the end of this one. That doesn't do anything, but maybe it's just for affect.
I mean, there's somebody in like departments who's like, all right, what's a new ridiculous weapon we can make? And lo and behold, we find ways.
Yeah, meat
Maybe it's
tenderizer.
meant to be counterweight.
Oh, smarty pants. All right, maybe you're right.
Okay, Miss College.
Miss College educated. Yeah. Tools that have stabby ends to them.
Stabby ends. That's the technical term.
Yeah.
Stabby. I want it to be more stabby. They make it more stabby.
This is the highlight for me because you can see where like all the air is pumped to kind of make it, or the all the wiring that goes through it.
Yeah.
You can just brought it from set. When you look at your role and knowing the kind of warm and approachable person you are as a human being. So when it comes to Sebastian, there are moments where I'm like, oh, there's humor in this character. There's humor in how to play this part. Do you struggle sometimes threading that needle between deadly serious, I'm really serious Sebastian, and then like trying to be a little ridiculous?
Well, I think the humor is in his seriousness. In those like funny moments, he's often still deadly serious, and that's almost what's funny about it. You're like, oh my god, nobody could be this much of a tool. Oh yes, he could.
Right.
So I think actually like it actually serves to, in those moments, even if understanding analytically from the outside, like this is probably going to come off as funny. The way for it to come off as funny is if I play this as seriously as possible. I mean, if I'm saying something to somebody, I want to find the most biting tone that I can say it to them, and find like a malicious, crappy, like back of the throat way to say it. And somebody's gonna be like, wow, this is such a mean person that is almost funny. That I think serves by going almost against the instinct, which is like, how do I make you laugh? It's like,
right.
You do so.
Well, that's gotta be tough too, especially coming from where you come from. Like, your instinct is kind of like just poopy head.
Oh no,
like,
I do that when the cameras weren't rolling.
Oh, man.
I was definitely the Joker between takes. There was a lot of that. So I would get it out of my system, and then we would go in for the takes and drop in.
On the note of that though, like in terms of, well, I don't want to ask about pranks and jokes and whatnot. There's plenty of that material going around, but what I want to know really is, have you been starstruck by anybody on the cast at all?
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I mean, obviously, the first time you're seeing Norm, you're just like, holy crap, Norman Reedus. Like, that's insane. And we had a very weird, like, unceremonious first meeting, because it's like the very first thing that we ever shot together is they were like standing guard outside of the banquet hall, and I like come up to him to like adjust his shirt. But like this, literally, we have a crowd of people. It's the middle of the evening. Like they've already been shooting. I've just come to set for this one shot today. So it's very much like, hey, cool, let's go in. Let me be an asshole to you now. So you don't get a lot of time sometimes. So it's you kind of over time build the rapport with actors. So like with Norm, it wasn't until I think it's 11:14 when we're on like the hill, looking down, and I'm telling them to go like get my money from like a bank vault. That was like the first time we had like a lot of one-on-one where we get to just kind of catch up, chat, hear about life. And they're all super grounded, super fun people. I think that's a huge part. And I'm not just well, I'm being paid obviously endless amounts of money to lie to you, but yes, perfect, exactly. No, but in reality, like they're all really, really nice people, and I think that's a huge aspect of the show is they try to keep people on who just know how to work with other actors, know how to build that rapport. So that was always kind of a thing from day one. Everybody was very chill. Same thing with like Melissa. Like my last day, she came up to me and was like, "Can we like take a picture?" And I was just like, yes, Melissa, we can take a picture. Like that.
No! Go away!
Absolutely.
You kill children!
I don't know who you are, lady. I'm not taking photos right now. And then another one for me was Jeffrey Dean Morgan. I mean, he's a massive dude. You're definitely like a little intimidated. But again, with all these people, within 5 seconds, you're realizing none of them are actually intimidating in real life. They're all just super
teddy bears.
Exactly. Yeah. They're all teddy bears.
I mean, they're all kind of teddy bears in their own way.
Yeah, that's what I always said to Norm every day on set. I was like, you teddy bear, you teddy bear.
Want a hug?
Yeah, constantly. I just kept threatening him with hugs.
He does look like, well, as a character, he does look like a guy who needs a lot of hugs.
Oh, definitely.
But we'll be like, no!
Or more just grumbles.
Fart, something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Gross.
Just all farts.
He's all farts. So Linda says, fan art Lindy says, What has been your favorite part about working on The Walking Dead? It's a broad question.
No, that's a good question. In terms of where I am in my career, what I've been able to do, what was so incredible was getting the opportunity to have a full arc and command over a character. And, you know, by the end, there was moments where I was realizing, like, oh, I am now becoming the eminent scholar on the character of Sebastian. Like, you know, I like, you know, when we're on set, you know, like 5 episodes in, directors will also be like, what do you think? What do you think you would do here?
Okay.
Which a lot of times if you're coming on for 1 episode of a show, you know, you're there to serve the story, which isn't, that's a very, like, you know, good and noble thing, but a lot of times you're just there to kind of get us from point A to point B in the plot of a story. Whereas when you're given the gift of a character with a larger arc, you get to really start to figure out, like, okay, what does this inform us about this character as a whole? So therefore, you know, how is this going to come back into play maybe 2 episodes from now, 3 episodes from now? Oh, you know what, now that we're shooting this, I'm remembering what I did 5 episodes earlier, and actually that would really play into my decision here. So really getting to, you know, experience a character to the point where you feel like, okay, I am in command of who this is, and not just like figuring it out on the set on the day of.
Somebody else's vision, somebody else's dream.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's really cool. You know, I get in one of the episodes got to work with Greg, and it was really cool because he is I can't sing his praises enough as a director, but he was very big into just kind of being like, this is what I'm looking for, and this is what I want to show with your character. How do you think Sebastian would do that? And so actually getting to like have a little bit of a chat with him, like, oh, interesting, I didn't even think of going that way, but yes, I see where you're cutting at. Let's try this and bring it to the screen.
Or can I try that?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. So just having a lot more freedom than I'd ever had before as an actor in a project. And, you know, the fact that a show of this caliber was willing to trust me and let me do that, I mean, I'm forever grateful for it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, on that vein, one of my questions was going to be, and it is, so I'm going to ask it.
Nice.
Is, for a lot of people, Sebastian is dirtbag.
Great guy.
But
hot, virile.
Some, like me, right?
Many, yeah.
Voluptuous?
Yeah.
That's not
the most common word I get.
Yeah, I guess in a way. Anyway, so my question really is more along the lines of a lot of actors, when it comes to their unsavory characters, can give us a reason to think twice about a character. Like, okay, like Jeffrey Dean Morgan, right? He talks about Negan, he's like, well, Negan, it's his point of view. Anyway, but for you, what would you say is something that we ought to think twice about? So, just on a broad sense, not like a really plot point sort of sense.
No. I mean, I
defend Sebastian, essentially.
I would love to. I mean, I would say the biggest thing for me is, like, keep in mind how he got here. The fact that, you know, he did not ask to be put in this position. He was born into this thing, which is obviously privilege, but we know that with privilege comes its own problems, and I'm not here to say, like, feel terrible for really rich people, but it is to say that, like, there is a lot of weight on his shoulders as somebody who is, you know, being told, like, you are going to run this community someday, and whether or not he was actually born to do that, or if it was just thrust upon him.
Right. He has, like, fate. That this is it.
Yeah.
You have no opinion, input.
Yeah.
Your life
again,
is.
if you're the child of, like, you know, the Kennedys,
right,
like, you know, some part of that family, like, it's not up to you. You're going to be in the limelight from day one. And that might work for you. You might be able to handle that. Other people, that might be really tough, and that you might respond to that very negatively. And I do think that's something that, as the actor, I constantly think about, like, okay, you know, his decisions. Like, for me, a big thing is, like, I think rarely is a character just one note evil. Like, you have to be like a demon from the, you know, 7th level of hell to just be evil.
Right, and especially on this show. This show.
Yeah. But I mean,
which is kind of why I asked the question, because like, for all intents and purposes, we didn't really get that insight until one of the last episodes, or the last episode of 11B, where you do get to see a little bit of vulnerability. He's drunk, he's coping, and I saw a glimmer of, like, I felt something for Sebastian at that moment. And to everybody, by the way, everybody's more like, shut up. You're a softie. You love stray cats. I don't like stray cats. I hate cats.
Oh, you should like stray cats. Like Sebastian.
He really likes the band.
Yeah. Well, I'm very Team Sebastian for obvious reasons. But I would say, support. Yeah. You know, I don't think he's a bad guy.
Don't be afraid to soften up on Sebastian.
Exactly.
A little.
He's misunderstood.
Yeah. which we'll probably get to see. And I'm not asking this question, but we'll probably get to see.
I think we will get to
in the
see some
coming
interesting
episodes.
Interesting stuff.
The final episodes. Ooh, I don't like that.
No, that's wild.
Yeah, I mean,
Wow.
and for you to be a part of that it's got to be like.
I mean, again, we were talking about it. But
I'm closing up the shop.
it's
the bodega.
But again, having watched this while I was in college, learning to be an actor, and being like, oh, this is an amazing show. And obviously, if I could portal back in time, and be like, hey, you're gonna be on the last season of that show.
Shut the
I
up!
would have been
No.
like, that's ridiculous. You're making this up.
Yeah.
Also, how did you portal back here? Explain to me how time travel works. We should use it for other means
Right.
other than you.
Well, rerun, right?
Exactly.
So,
Everything comes back to rerun. That's everything should.
everything. When you first watched The Walking Dead, and of course you're looking into something that you know that you think might be great, and now we're like 12 years deep, and it's kind of like, do you regard it in that same regard as Star Wars, Star Trek, these huge
I mean, it's
enterprises?
Yeah, it's a massive universe, and on top of that, it brought back zombies as like a mainstream concept in a way that it really hadn't been there for a very long time. And look at the amount of work on the theme of zombies that have come out, not just from the United States, but around the world.
Right.
You take Train to Busan, which is an
Right.
amazing movie.
Korean,
I don't think
horror.
that kind of stuff would necessarily exist if it wasn't for a show like this, sparking everyone's imagination again. Because I think there is something that's it's one of the most accessible horror things, zombies, because it takes, viruses, pandemics, whatever, something of a global proportion attacking all of us, and what do you do? And everybody has a concept of what would I do? Versus, if I'm in a haunted house, that's a very specific situation versus, oh no, wherever I am in the world is getting, attacked by zombies now. And I think this show really put that back in the cultural zeitgeist.
I don't know if you got a good look at some of this.
I was gonna say we're running around. This is freaking insane, man. I also just love with these, you were talking about with the pump hoses that go through. It's you don't necessarily think it would be that simple, but then you're like, oh yeah, this is movie magic that they figured out in Romero era, and they're just why do you fiddle with something that works?
Right.
We know
It ain't
how these
broke.
things. Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot they reinvented a lot of the colors for the blood for this show, but it's a lot of the same material they've invented back on those first movies when they're figuring out, all right, what makes the viscosity of blood, what's going to look good and sticky.
Right, and they just kind of build on that and build on that and build on that on what works. This is probably one of the most traumatic scenes that I've ever witnessed. Is nose
keeps
down.
airing.
No, oh right,
Really?
Yeah,
I feel like I just want you to
teary-eyed during her interview.
get this and have it go everybody hates Chris.
Yeah, this prosthetic is great.
Oh.
I know you can't see us very well, but Glenn's facial prosthetic and
That
scalp.
is insane.
Yeah, but you can see this up close, right? His facial, his mold. Mm-hmm. You can see where they peeled it off of him too,
Yeah.
or off the mold.
But even just you're seeing bits of the flesh on the bat, just these kind of concepts that somebody has to think, all right, how do we make this?
And how cool that must have looked like against the light. I think
yeah.
while the bat was in the air.
Well, and again, this is the part where I'm a huge fan of the concept. That's movie magic. This is where somebody's how do I fake this so that when you're watching it, they know this looks as close to the real thing as possible. But somebody has to sit there and think through the technical aspects of okay, what fibers do we need in this to be able to pump something to come out when it gushes as it pulls back, wherefore what does this whole thing have to be made out of so we can actually get close to Steven's head without him in any way hurting him. Just that kind of attention to detail is insane.
I mean, just look at that. I don't even know if this was in a shot. I mean, but it looks so good.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was for when he's doing a wide, if he's really kind of coming down on him.
Yeah,
they can,
wailing,
bring it in so that way Jeffrey can actually fully swing through.
So that must have been fun.
Which is also going to be wild for him to come into the show I'm about to ruin everybody's day on this show.
Looking back at some of those interviews, I don't even think he understood
Really,
what it would do to the fandom. Even.
Oh my god!
I mean, as much as we have to be a little bit realistic about. Many fans did drop off. Its popularity has dwindled. I mean, obviously it's consolidated the fandom, but
no, but I mean,
that was
I was going to say that's
one of the biggest
moments. It was a huge moment where people really went off from it, which I actually, funnily enough, especially after having read the comics, I really loved what they did with it because in classic form of them kind of going against what you're expecting, they give us Abraham, and for any comic book reader, you're thinking, okay, Glenn's safe. They're not doing that. We're not following that. Psych, we're actually going to do that as well.
Right.
And when I was reading the comics, being like, oh my god, like if I hadn't known all these things before, this issue would have just blown my mind. Versus like seeing it there, I feel like you get a very similar effect in the episode doing the same thing.
Right. Another that little bit of like, oh, I don't know what's coming.
Yeah, exactly. That's what's wild to me is like eviscerated people when they're like just so meager at the end.
Helpless, yeah.
Or I mean, with this guy like building that.
Oh man. I'm talking about iconic too, right?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
I love the sound. It's like you know what's coming.
Yeah. But it's just...
And you can't turn away. Oh, the eyes.
Yep.
There you go. Apparently he has an Audi. Not anymore.
Oh, snap.
So these are fan-created works that, of course, you have time to watch.
Yeah.
There's not as many as I thought there would be, too. So the reason why I even found out about this is because the curator actually came out to Fandemic, and she just like talked to people, us included.
Yeah.
And when I found out where she was from, and Museum of the Moving Image, okay, fine. She actually attended one of our panels, or not our panels, but one of the panels we were filming about what does The Walking Dead mean to you, and it's kind of nice for them to be there. And I mean, obviously, it didn't make this cut, but just for them to even think about the fans and what it meant to the fans. This is kind of this alley right here.
No, that's super greens. Cool. Well, I mean, I think, but it goes back to your question of, does this show get to that stratospheric level with things like Star Wars? And I think, yeah. Because you now take into consideration the fans. The fans are such an intense, integral part of the show. Just like the people's attachments to it. People have, like when you're working with some of the extras on the show, people traveled to like live in Georgia to work on that show.
Yeah.
It's like he's kind of like dancing in this one.
He's doing like the hustle. Hey, some of these are really, really amazing. I mean, some of these are really, really iconic too. Like, I just saw him. Yeah, this guy. He's one of the most notable zombies on the show, right from the beginning.
Yeah, right. I was gonna say that.
Well, it looks like this guy, just like we saw before, it looks like this guy does kind of come apart.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah, they even have the figure that does it. That's sick.
Kind of like what you were saying was like Star Trek wouldn't have made it without the fans. Although that was a lot of Gene Roddenberry's input. So, but he understood.
But I think like when a show taps into like such a wide audience of imagination, then you get fan-made productions of things, people who are just excited to soak up more and more content from it. You look at just the offshoots that are coming out from Walking Dead. A lot of that is because people want more. They want more of this concept, which again is like at its very core is a fairly simple one of like, what if we draw this back to just the most base, real zombies, survival, what do you do? And people want more and more and more of it.
Who and what do we become? And look, being realistic, yeah, we would die. But maybe we wouldn't.
I've spent many an afternoon figuring out how I would survive in New York. So
oh wow, in New York, you like in New York specifically?
So, I have some thoughts. Like, the big question is if the military is still standing. If military is still standing, I'm gonna say this right here and now, and you get it exclusive. I think New York's actually not a bad place because we're all in buildings. We're all in like our own little castles, and as long as somebody could like airdrop supplies on the roof, I could hold that thing down.
Yeah, why not?
My mom's building, Manhattan. Just jam a couch in the stairwell. You're not getting up that thing. Doesn't matter how many zombies you have. That thing's metal.
Done.
Have you seen a New York City door? You're not getting up that.
I think we're gonna kind of see that in Isle of the Dead.
I'm very curious.
As New Yorkers, I'm. It's one of those things where you're kind of like, will they do this justice? I have that skeptical New York brain, and it's more monumental than I think people take for it.
Yeah. No, I mean it's really cool that they're adding that into it and bringing it to New York. And I think obviously we're going to see a very different side. I mean, you're talking about one of the densest areas. So what does that mean for like the zombie apocalypse?
Yeah.
What does that even look like? Because we've seen, for the most part, trying to steer clear of these dense zones,
right?
And then going to the mecca of it all.
We see it like right in the first episode, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah. No, but then
just
quickly
Atlanta.
they're like, oh wait, we shouldn't be in Atlanta. This is a terrible idea. Let's get out of here.
Well, more than anything else, we kind of see this in the beginning of the season 11,
Mm-hmm.
what it does to people, like obviously in farmland, like the Ferals. But then what does it do to New Yorkers?
Mm-hmm.
Do we become... Now, I'm going to say this, and I think you might agree, it's kind of like the 9/11 effect,
Mm-hmm.
where I think a lot of people will kind of come together. You can't afford to have your own little private space on a public subway.
Mm-hmm.
This is it.
Yeah.
You know, we all live together. We all grow together. I think that's, like we said at the beginning, New Yorkers aren't that as rude as you think.
Yeah.
You know, we have a way of coming together. We do have a way of kind of screwing each other.
I mean, I might call you an asshole, but like,
Right, but
you probably
it's-
deserved it.
Yeah.
You know?
But it's like, a term of endearment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's like 18 different ways to say asshole.
Yeah. Or I love you.
Mm-hmm.
But like, yeah, forget about it. Anyway,
so
this is where they were actually interviewing a bunch of people.
Pandemic?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, wow.
Bunch of cosplayers.
I was gonna say that's been one of my favorite things is seeing all the cosplays. People have done like such an amazing job with some of these outfits.
Oh yeah. Especially that Carl cosplay. Yeah, there's some amazing people featured in this video, but like we know so many more people, the artists, the really really good cosplay.
No, it's been so cool to see all the art that comes out of it.
And just to see with as many people that could make fun of, let's say, the Walking Dead fans. Yeah, oh, you still watch that, the Common Refrain, you still watch that show, but it's actually, as a New Yorker, it's kind of changed me. I still have New York brain. I still have that guy like, oh, who's gonna F me today?
Yeah.
But this fandom has really changed me, I think.
I mean,
It's so
people
generous.
were saying it to me when I was getting on. But they're like, it's you're gonna experience it, but it's a lot like a family.
Yeah.
And I mean, you hear that in a lot of the different podcasts or things, but they always say like, TWD family. And I've experienced that to only be true. I was really really surprised.
Were you skeptical of that a
Well,
little
I mean,
bit?
especially
Because
coming
you've been
in,
to sets, yeah.
Well, and especially coming in as a bad guy, I was, really prepared for everybody to kind of just be like, we hate you, yada yada. I've shockingly received no negative responses from anybody.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yet. Hoping that's wood. I'm just knocking on something.
Okay.
But so far, everybody's been super super positive. Everybody kind of understands like, okay, you're playing. This character that we hate, but like you yourself are doing your job well if I hate you.
Oh wait, we haven't seen the rest of the season yet, so you never know. You never know.
So, yeah, maybe I just go all downhill from here.
Hey, but then the show will be over, and you can like, yeah, I'm on to my next role.
Yeah, I'm done with that. Yeah. No, this was just a stepping stone.
Yeah, I'm moving up over here. Anyway, so so on that note, I was going to say, are you working on any projects you can talk to us about?
Oh yeah, for sure. I just did an episode of a show called Fantasy Island, which was super fun. We got to shoot 2 weeks in Puerto Rico.
Right.
It was dumb. My girlfriend hated me for getting to go on a mini vacation for work.
You didn't tell me? Okay.
And she had, but this is also a classic one where, because Walking Dead, I had like several weeks before I would be down there. They they really give you time. With this, I found out on I think it was a Monday and I had to fly on a Wednesday. So it's very much like you're just calling everybody and being like, all right, I'm not going to be here for 2 weeks. So if we had a plan, that's not happening. I'm not going to be there.
Wow.
So yeah, you really just shoot off and go do that.
There must be kind of like an adjustment to make, like after having been on the Walking Dead. I mean, you really can't do anything while you're on the Walking Dead. It's one of the things we found out while talking to Tom Payne, who played Jesus.
Yeah.
He was like, yeah, even if you're not doing anything, that's what you're doing.
Yep.
Nothing.
Yep.
There.
Yep.
Yeah. And you're getting paid to do it.
Yeah, of course. No, I mean, it's great. You're part of that universe. But yes, you are very much full-time just on this. So it is also, it's weird after several months of being consistently working on the same project to then kind of go back into the what's next, what are you working on? And I'm really lucky, had that show. I've done a chunk of voiceover stuff.
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
I got to do my first video game, which was very stoked about.
Cool.
Yeah. They're doing a remake of Brothers in Arms, which was this World War II shooter.
Gotcha.
And they wanted to bring in voice actors for that, which that's always been a bucket list thing for me. Was I'm a big video game person, and then also the history nerd, so it kind of just fulfilled a few things at once. But it's just you have no idea what the next project is until you get a call from the agent or manager.
Is there an adjustment that you have to make from coming off The Walking Dead to just going? I mean, obviously we talked about that, but is it kind of like coming back from vacation in a weird manner of phrasing?
Oh, definitely.
Oh, I have to do this now. Like,
Well, I mean,
the grind.
but even like, I mean, because you're like away at sleepaway camp.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're going off, like your day is full when you're like on set, but it's, literally like putting on these ridiculous outfits and doing just like crazy things where they're like, all right, you're gonna storm over here with 8 like soldiers in like white uniforms behind you, like protecting you, and then do that like 20 times, and you're like, all right, great job, everybody go home.
That's it.
That's a normal day. That's what normal people do with your day. But then being done with that, and your girlfriend being like, all right, so the dog is having diarrhea. You taking care of that one? And you're like, oh right, human life. Yes, of course, that thing.
Yeah.
So that's always fun.
And then like going on to something like Fantasy Island, it must be like go. We gotta get this in the can.
No, it's definitely. I mean, again, it's also just like there's no zombies in Fantasy Island.
Right. There should be though.
And we could pitch this.
Yeah. Ooh, run.
All right, I'm gonna go talk to the show.
Yeah, you got some calls to make.
Yeah, don't walk, don't run.
Run.
Showrunner.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's like it's wild to go into a universe like that, and that one's obviously also just it's a lot more whimsical fun in a way. It's a lighter show, obviously, and for me it was huge because it's the first time in like a guest star where I got to have facial hair consistently, because I play a lot of boys, and so it was very exciting when somebody's like, no, we're going to allow you to cosplay as a man.
Right.
So
cosplay as a man.
Very, very excited for that. So yeah, that should be out in the winter actually.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, whimsical, a little bit of a break from the seriousness, grudging dueling. Yeah, it's really great. I'm happy for you.
Thank you.
I felt that.
The fan art.
Oh, this is a treat. We actually had Sookie Martinson who did these pieces down here.
Yeah, just talking to Sookie.
Yeah. Oh, great. Yeah, this is all her stuff over here.
Oh wow.
But there's some really great Rob Pryor. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he does like these ambidextrous, on the spot live paintings.
Oh,
this is
wow.
It. Yeah.
All right.
He would do these at concerts and everything.
Yeah. I've seen some. I didn't know the name, but yeah, that's so cool. That is such an insane skill.
Yeah, while listening to music.
Also, like, how do you figure out that you can do that? Like, what was the first time you're like,
we're gonna have to get him on the show.
Yeah.
I've been dying to figure out the next.
Why do you have me? Go get Rob.
We'll get Rob and Andy. Ambidextrous. See you later.
Also, I love these pieces.
Yeah. Oh, that's Walker Wynn.
Yeah. This is like
Kaylin.
I'm obsessed with these.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The illustrative style is great, and she's always like one-upping things too. This is a newer piece for an older episode.
Yeah.
You can see the difference between.
Yeah, like I saw some of that on my old Instagram.
Yeah, I wish I could show you older ones right now, but yeah.
No, these are so cool.
I mean, I remember getting season 9. She did an illustration of season 9, episode 1, where they're going to DC, and it's such a stark contrast. You can see her growth between that piece and like something like this. She's sort of amazing. And all these people. I mean, Kurt Manley on the inside.
Oh wow,
that's amazing.
Yeah.
That really captured.
I mean, this was an awesome episode.
It's one of my favorite pieces by him.
Yeah. It was such a treat to get that episode too, as a fan. I was like, oh, let's do a The People Under the Stairs episode.
I love that, like, kind of just being like, this is, because it's not one-off, but it does feel like it's going off to do its own thing.
Yeah.
And, I mean, also, again, like, you talk about things about, like, inclusivity, like, bringing in, like, what survival would be like for somebody who's deaf is, like, a fascinating experience. And I think doing so in a way where it's, like, far from helpless. She's like a very, very savvy in figuring out how can she use these kind of things, which I think, is something that Walking Dead has done for a while, but I don't think it gets the praises sung enough. And obviously, Lauren Ridloff is one of the best actors.
Oh yeah, very emotive with what she. I mean, there's a lot to say about physical acting
like
too.
This shot, like I remember like that. No, but like seriously, I've seen her eyes in that, and I was just like, oh my god, like just taking notes and be like, okay, that's how you do it. Yeah, she's amazing at that stuff. I feel like she must have just studied so much of like older cinema and been like, okay, how did they used to do things? Because I don't know, she has a way with like every single like little attention on her face that, just has to take years and years and years of practice.
Mitchell's I Found Them Rick G on Twitter.
Nice.
And he says, who has been your favorite person to work with?
That's hard. And I seriously mean this because like there have been so many great ones.
Yeah.
I've said this multiple times before, but
Like a scene partner, right?
Well, for me, a big one is Josh Eugene.
Oh yeah, okay. Josh McDermott.
Josh McDermott was the first person I got to meet from like the series regulars, and I can't sing it enough, but he is like the nicest human being in the world. The first thing we do is like when he punches me in the face, but like we did like a cast reading of that episode, and this is during COVID, so I'm doing this on Zoom. And the second we finish, I get a text from him being like, hey, this is Josh McDermott, this is my number. If you need anything, like, welcome to the family. Like, couldn't have been more inviting. And so we come in for a fight call just to kind of prep the punch. And I kind of opened up to him and I was like, hey, man, like, thank you so much for doing that. Because, like, I'll be honest, like, this is intimidating. This is a huge show. This is the biggest thing I've been a part of. And I, just don't want to screw it up. And he was just like, dude, that was me on my first day. I completely feel you. And then he was talking about how, like, Andrew Lincoln set the precedence of, like, anybody who comes onto the show, we treat them like family and let them know that we're here to raise everybody up. And that was just, I feel so grateful that was my first, breath into the show, because it really, like, from the very beginning settled me and, like, let me know, like, no, you can take space here and we will all try to help you build, like, your character, and there are no mistakes, we'll just do it again.
Right, it's not like, hey, figure it out.
Yeah,
right?
or just like, dude, you're on a top budget show, like, move. He's saying, like, if you're here, it's because you deserve to be. And there was just something very, humbling and grounding about hearing that. And I got to, like, even if, like, there was several times where, like, I'm working on a scene and he just was walking by that day because he was doing something else, which, like, again, you do not have to do that. You can go home, and nobody in their right mind would ever blame an actor for doing that. It makes sense. So, no, the guy is, like, he's a true, like, team captain in a lot of ways, and really
that's awesome.
Wants to be there for other people on the show.
Yeah. And that's such a great thing to hear. Like, he and both Seth Gilliam. Mm-hmm. I mean, the two characters who were treated most like dirt in the real world.
Yeah.
Having the heart to really kind of raise you up and trying to, well, I mean, especially considering what you might face within the real world, but probably not, because the fans have kind of all consolidated, I think.
Yeah, I've been really lucky, but, like,
which is great. And you kind of, like, walked in when all this kind of died down, mostly.
Yeah, no, but I mean, like, I was talking to him obviously about, like, some of that kind of stuff, and it's tough, and I don't know, I have a lot of strong opinions, obviously as an actor, but, like, as just also a fan of things, like, it rarely would I ever consider that to be an actor's fault. And, like, you take, like, Eugene.
Right,
it's like, I understand people are pissed because of some of the actions Eugene takes, but, like, I think that Josh does an amazing job at that character. I mean, if you read the comics, I think he's, like, pretty spot on. Like, I was reading the comics with Josh's voice, like, a lot of the times, because I think he just nails it. And, like, and he has some, like, hard dialogue, because he has to speak in this very, like, that is uncouth,
exactly.
kind of weird things that, like,
really quickly at times.
Yeah, you wouldn't normally be saying. So I mean, I think that's just one of those things where they're also often tend to be some of the nicest, like, humble guys who are just head down, do their job really well, and leave. But Michael, I hate.
Leave it at home.
Michael James Shaw, I hate.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, we fight a lot.
He sounds like a very cold guy. He's never coming on the show now.
Screw you, Michael.
Sorry, Linda.
We love Michael.
Sorry, Linda.
One of the first times I went up to him, I was like, dude, this is going to be crazy. You're not going to believe me, but I actually originally was in callbacks for your part. And then, like, late in the game, they were like, maybe Sebastian instead. Yeah, that was the beginning of a friendship.
Wouldn't it be funny if, like, Shaw was Sebastian?
It'd be a great
There's a lot of questions there.
Or, like, in some weird bizarre episode where somebody goes into, like, a portal of, like, an opposite universe.
Yeah.
And I'm his submersive.
Yeah, exactly. They should have, like, a what if episode.
If somebody calls me up, I was like, hear me out. What if?
What if?
I'd be like, you son of a bitch, I'm in.
Oh, and, like, him and Argyle and yeah, oh, that'd be great.
If Scott Gimple calls me up.
He would, Michael James Shaw would kind of like it at first, but be like, ooh, it's kind of like a nightmare, isn't it?
Oh, I don't know. He would like it. He was the guy who I probably, like, we were, like, between takes, we were just doing the most, like, I was just trying to get him to laugh.
Yeah.
No, I love that man. Talk about a teddy bear. That is a teddy bear. He's a sweet guy in real life, and he's just, I don't know, he's, like, really shy, but it's, like, in the best possible way.
And he definitely comes off that way in social media too.
Mm-hmm.
He just invites everybody into his world.
Yeah.
Which is so. Who does that?
Yeah, no,
it's amazing.
He's
you do somewhat the same thing too, occasionally.
Yeah, I know. I'm not as good on social media.
No, you're all right. Yeah, I mean, your stories lately have been pretty great. While you were on vacation, I was like mentioning, like, oh, that cut me up. I love it.
Oh yeah, no, it's
like you thought of a skit to do while you're away. Like, no.
It was mostly my girlfriend, because this is all I do always. I mean, is random bits, and she was like, "You've got to start filming these things."
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And I was like, "All right."
That is unique too. Like, You'd think that you'd have a spouse or a girlfriend, right?
Yeah.
But that would be like, okay, bro, leave work at home. All right, leave it at home. But like to encourage you to kind of do your thing.
We're both actors, but a big part of the relationship is humor. I don't know. I think that's like a very important cornerstone. So we both obviously just try to make each other laugh. Now this is turning into relationship advice. So first it was New York City driving advice,
so true.
And now relationship advice. I think you date the person you're married to. I think that's some of the deepest advice.
Marry the person you're dating. Don't do that. Don't do what I just said.
Yeah.
If you have the option to play any character on the show, first of all, would you? If you had to be in another character's skin, what would you play? On the show? I guess on the show. Yeah, sure.
I mean, in terms of who I just really love character-wise, I'm a huge Glenn fan.
Okay.
I love Steve Ewan's job in that. But I just think it's such a fun one. He gets this great view of a guy who's just old enough that he is now of use in a zombie apocalypse, but young enough that everything in life would be somewhat new to him anyway. He's at a point when he starts where he was a pizza delivery guy. Yeah. So it's socioeconomically, it's not like he lost a lot in the same way that some people did.
Yeah.
And so
he just got a promotion.
Yeah, in a new way. It's he's all of a sudden all these skills of being able to run around a city really well came into use in a new way. And it didn't matter before if you were the richest man in Atlanta, you're all on the same level. And I just think his character journey in that is just so much fun to watch.
Yeah.
I was always such a big fan of this.
Well, it says a lot about you too, to kind of play somebody who has that, I guess, depth of heart or moral compass. As some people, I call him the heart of the show. Mm-hmm. Usually the first to go. Dale had some of that too.
Yeah.
I mean, even age-wise, would you have wanted to play Dale at some point? That kind of
No, I love that that character and that as you're saying, that heart of the show, especially because he's really cementing that whole team together before the glue is in place.
Right.
He's the thing that keeps them
trying,
as best he can. He's the one with any kind of sagely wisdom. For me it was he's kind of the person that everybody turns to do you have anything that kind of feels vaguely like this? Because nobody's ever experienced an apocalypse. I remember talking to older family friends and family members about the pandemic and being does this remind you of anything?
Just recently, you were in was it Sweden?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Well, no, but I'm just in throughout the pandemic because for somebody I'm 30, but being I don't have anything I could possibly relate this to. This is an experience like none other, and obviously almost every family member was I don't either, because the last time was the Spanish flu. A little history lesson for you. And I think that's a big thing of what Dale gets to kind of do is be the moral compass too of what should we be doing, how do we comport ourselves.
Whether or not he even knows what that is. Mm-hmm. Just somebody to be able to actually say that.
Yeah.
Mitchell, again, also, he said, is there one thing, first of all, would you change anything about the character of Sebastian? And if there is, what would be the one thing you tweak in the character? It doesn't even have to be canon, but something that you would what if he had this as his backstory, or what if he had this attribute? First thing that comes to mind. It's a tough one.
Yeah. I would say a lot of it, it's hard because there's parts of this that I want to answer, but also are going to come into play with what's going to come up.
Gotcha.
But I would just say because when you're getting to set, when you're on the show, you're figuring out from the clues that have been left for you from the writers in a lot of ways. Because I remember early on kind of asking all right, are we talking do we think this is somebody who is on a spectrum of being a sociopath, or is this much more the rich kid aspect?
Is it affluenza? Is that what it's called?
Yeah. No, but and they were kind of we're going more the affluenza side, and I don't know, I want it because especially when I'm killing that zombie, there's a moment where I'm turning around and I'm excited, I'm almost staggering from just the endorphins of getting to kill something, and I personally was I kind of want to follow that as a character. What if he does very much have something, somewhat in the Governor vein where it's he just doesn't always view people as people. That would have been just super
to lead into that.
Yeah. So kill people.
That sort of I'm a warrior. I can do this.
I perceive myself as a warrior. I don't if I'm telling a guard shoot that person and they're wondering moralistically is that okay? Yeah. I'm why are you even asking me that question? That kind of stuff. I had a lot of. It sounds really creepy, but I had a lot of fun, thinking in that world and working on that stuff. I promise I'm not a killer. I'm a morally somewhat
I went on TV.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah,
exactly. But yeah, I would definitely say would have loved to follow in the kind of like what makes this guy tick when it comes to like killing people and murdering people and that kind of stuff, because he's living in a world where like for him he gets to go out and be like, oh, let's go kill some rotters today. Whereas most people, all they're trying to do is avoid. You know, that's a last ditch thing is that you're going to kill them.
Right.
For him, it's like, I'm bored today.
So that's an interesting way of framing that, because some of the biggest questions in the fandom is like, and outside the fandom, people who criticize the show is like, oh, why don't you just walk away, or oh, that's not so hard. You know, so you're almost answering the question of like what I want to be what the fans would think they would be in the apocalypse. That's what you see Sebastian as possibly.
Yeah. Well, because I mean, he gets a weird certain fan observer status.
He's a fan of the show.
He's a huge fan of the show.
Essentially,
he has always been asking where Andy.
Oh, I could do this.
No, but like again, it's like because he was so young when it all started, and probably was fairly young when he got to a point where from now on, you know, somebody comes up to you and says like, all right, from now on, you don't need to worry about a zombie breaking in at night. You are safe. Like, you will not have to worry about that any longer. And that is not really the case for most places. I mean, Alexandria is the first time I think they even really well, maybe the prison, but like they're starting to experience like, okay, maybe actually you can go to sleep and not worry about this, but it's always temporary.
Right. But
for the people in the Commonwealth, clearly if they've gotten to the point they're at, it's been going on for a while.
Right.
They've had a long, sustained period of safety.
Tranquility, right? Yeah.
You know, which is like that is a very rare experience in this universe, obviously. And for him, therefore, he's doing the weirdest thing of seeking out danger where most other people are avoiding it.
Oh, that's interesting. It's like that existential question, right? Like which we always ask too. Like one of my biggest things is that it's not enough to survive. Mm-hmm. So one of the things I like to explore is like to really hit that hard, and say like one of the Tales of the Walking Dead episodes at the end, they have the option of like living in this just super max bunker, the top of the line, but they opt instead to kind of like move in the world because at the end of the day, safety and security and having
is it worth it if you're going to be living inside this
and staying in one place, which is what this guy's been doing the entire time. So you're kind of answering that question. Is it enough?
No, I mean,
safety and tranquility.
This also goes back to earlier, but it's like, you know, again, we're not just surviving tonight. You're surviving for years and years and years and trying to build a sustainable life, knowing that this is now an unavoidable part of your life.
Right.
And what, you know, how do you mend the two? Because at some point you're going to have to deal with mental health and things like that. Can you live by yourself? You know, in an isolated place, or do you need to be around other people? Are all parts that I think, you know, if you're going through this for months, you're gonna have to answer.
Right. You know? Well, the bigger question of, you know, The Walking Dead allows you to become the person you were meant to be, and you know, are the Commonwealth's walls enough to keep that at bay? It's over. Did you not know? It's over. So, and then maybe Sebastian's kind of keen on that. So he's ahead of the curve, folks. The Commonwealth.
Well, but I mean, like for the people reading like the comics, like in the last issues, they're dealing like Carl's dealing as a grown man with like kids growing up in these days. But like, you know, kids in these days, they don't even think of zombies as like, you know, a threat anymore.
Right.
And I just think like that kind of stuff is super fascinating because you're now getting into what does the point look like when we're crossing over from this being, you know, a category 1 contagion into this is just something we all live with.
This is life now. Right?
Yeah. And I think we're starting to kind of even see the first bits of that. You know, what does the first week look like when you no longer have to wear a mask?
Right.
The Commonwealth is kind of the first place they've gone to where nobody's wearing masks anymore.
Right. Oh, this is how it could be. Maybe?
Yeah, exactly.
And then there's the possibility of motile / fast walkers, which I'm not looking forward to. Which ups the ante, right? It just says, you thought you were
it's a game changer.
Safe.
And to all the
which kind of like puts a thumb in the eye of Sebastian too. It's like, you really wanted this? It's about to get a whole lot worse, right?
You're going to need some real advanced military training.
Exactly.
But but I mean, like, you know, and to the naysayers of like, they're slow moving. It's like the scary thing was never like their speed; it was their numbers.
Right.
It was like, you know, if you get swarmed,
and the fact that they don't rest and their ability to just keep coming, right? Whereas you get tired, you get hungry, you have to poop.
Yeah.
I mean, do you have to poop?
Yeah.
Oh.
No.
Exactly.
That. I mean,
Yeah.
Hey, how's it going, man? What's your name? Matthew? Teo, nice to meet you, man.
Nice to meet you.
You a fan of the show?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. What's your name?
How much do you love the character of Sebastian?
He's good people.
He's great, right? He's like you want to be him when he grows up.
So how are we going to see this interview? Where is it?
It's Squawking Dead. So we're a podcast that breaks down the episodes, but occasionally nice guys talk to us in museums. So it's kind of
Great.
Yeah. Teo, thank you for joining us at the Museum of Moving Image.
This is awesome.
And Astoria, Queens.
Astoria.
As a true pleasure. I could do this all day. Unfortunately, I can't keep you. It's illegal. So thank you for coming out here.
Dude, this was awesome. Thank you so much for having me on.
Manhattan, Brooklyn, unite
I know, finally.
in love,
In
in
Queens,
friendship.
Who'da thunk it?
Yeah. No, thank you so much for making it.
Of course,
I guess we're gonna see you at the camp.
I was gonna say, I'll
Yeah.
actually see you fairly soon. Yeah, camp, check it out.
So check out the camp, and you'll see him very soon.
Awesome.
So take care, Teo. Thank you for joining us.
Of
and,
course.
See you later.
See you guys. Bye.
Yeah, right. Works out for everybody. Everybody wins.
Yeah. So do you guys want comped admission? What do you do? Cut.
Everything is B-roll, Dave.
Constantly, all the time.
Yeah.
Always.
Not even holding audio. I feel like a fool. Making a mockery out of this.
I just thought the line would be a really immersive experience for the audience.
Yeah, we're gonna do VR of the line experience.
Wow. 360 sphere video. Kind of like that.